Okay, morning everybody. Today
Morning.
morning. We're talking about pumps. Last time we spoke about vane pumps. Today we're going to just talk generally a little bit about gear pumps. So it'll be the two that we've covered, and the third one next time will be piston pumps. So those are the three different types of pumps that you get in most machinery. So how this works, the gear pumps, it works on intermeshing gears. This one had a bit of a kaput, this one came back from a customer. And the intermediate gears or cogs transfer fluid. So as this connected to an engine source, could be obviously an earth moving, it's a diesel engine of some kind, or an electric source if it's something else. That would typically turn this shaft, would turn these gears and transfer fluid from a hydraulic tank, pressurize it, and operate your hydraulic systems in a hydraulic scenario. That's sort of basically how that works. You'll see in hydraulic pumps, you'll have one port that is much bigger. One port is small. You guys are going to have to do this after it's too heavy. And one port is big. Okay, here's a good one. There we go. So there's a big port, and there's a little port. So effectively what's happening is your oil is coming from an hydraulic tank or a transmission. It's coming through the big port and getting compressed. So it's the same amount of oil getting compressed through the gears and comes out under pressure to a lot smaller hole. So as the gears mesh together and turn, your oil goes through there and comes through these little ports out here and through these ports and pressurizes your system. You can see this is an aluminium housing. In some parts of the world they call it aluminum or something. Aluminum. And this one's a cast iron. So they're made of different materials. You always have a thrust plate on each end. So it's a very simple system. Really, it's just gears that are meshing and gears that are transferring fluid. When you install one of these, you'd always prime it with some oil to make sure that you don't have airlocks. So if you put a new pump in, you pour oil down the inlet and make sure that your pump's very well lubricated. And so when it starts up, it's not going to cause any damage. So that's very important in most types of pumps actually. You want to make sure it's got oil in and it's lubricated. You guys who handle pumps in stores, when you receive them, we engrave shipping numbers on the housings. Just be aware of the metal filings that come off there. You do not want them to go inside any of these ports. Okay, those ports need to be properly sealed for transportation. If it's raining like this and you get moisture in them, you'll get rust in them very quickly. So that's very important in terms of storage. Obviously in a dry place. We're in a very wet season at the moment. We've had some shipments that got a bit damaged. So just be aware of water damage in that. In terms of a failure, if you had, how do you know if your pump's about to fail? Obviously meshing gears, if there's a problem, they're going to be very, very noisy. So that's your first indication, because these gears are going to cause a lot of chatter and noise, and it'll eventually fail. And you'll get contamination right throughout your system. So it's probably a good idea to inspect your pumps net before it fails. The big advantage of these gear types pumps is they're quite simple. They're low cost. But the disadvantages mainly are like they just put out one pressure, not variable. It's not a variable pressure. But they're fairly easy to use. But once they go, generally you can't repair them. Like if you look at this one, it's caused damage. The shaft sheared off completely. it caused damage to that housing, and that's just, to try and repair this is just not really possible. So when they fail, they do go, and it's not worth repairing. What we do here at Tilly's, with a lot of the pumps that we get from some suppliers, we don't always have the confidence in what we get. We take to our workshop, we open them up, we call it our TCP range of parts. So under that range, those pumps are actually opened up. We check the main housings. We make sure that the tolerances are correct. We check the gears, we check all the seals, and we make sure we've got a high quality bushers. And we quite often replace the seals with a high quality product that we are confident with. And that would be like that seal there, like the front crankshaft seal. There's nothing worse than a customer getting a pump and the seal leaks just because they put a cheap seal in. So we do a lot of these ourselves. We check, make sure they're right, and that's our TCP range of pumps. Just so you guys, you might see the word TCP. That's kind of what it's a reworked part that we get. We make sure that we open it up and make sure that the tolerances are correct, so the customer has the benefit of a good product and reliability. So that's all. Any questions? Nick, you know we've got lots to say.
I need him there when he's working. What do you need?
Cool. Thanks, guys.
I'm camera shy, Pete.
Thanks, Dave.